So after listening to Thomas' presentation, where he has given a very macro picture of the energy sector, I'm going to limit myself to the electricity sector, and taking clue from the yesterday's inaugural, where quite a few panelists talked about the importance of energy equity, which means not only supply options but very much of the distribution options. My focus will be quite a bit on the distribution side of the electricity sector. So, what I plan to do is I just want to put electricity in the energy transition context, and then I will just briefly outline what are the contours of the transition in the electricity sector, and if we have to move towards a fair transition. Understanding of fair transition can be different by different people. Our understanding is that electricity should become a catalyst for development, and for that there should be explicitly special focus on small consumers and environment and livelihood. And since in the Indian context, we still continue to depend on the state for providing many services, including electricity, whatever transition we talk about should prevent undue burden. Of course, we should also ensure that electricity generation is management options are become better and better and continue to become better and better. uh, if you look at the supply side, there is a big change happening in the business models. We have electricity markets coming in. People can sell electricity as nearly like a commodity. Consumers can produce electricity and sell it to the grid. And then there are a whole lot of policies driven by climate, not only climate and environment, but also development considerations as understood by the state government, which drive the transition. Now, before I get into the presentation, I should also say that the perspective of transition can be looked at, can be multiple. There can be a very long perspective, like yesterday, for example, the way Sagar Dhara, the inaugural session, how Sagar presented about next generation or next generations kind of a perspective, or a medium term perspective where we are talking about just say 5 to 10 years, or a very short term perspective where we are talking about immediate issues about pollution or about grievances. So whatever is given in bold is a perspective that I'll be talking about, the medium perspective. The second thing is about we can take a very global perspective, or a national perspective, or a state perspective, or a community perspective. I'll be talking mostly on the national and state perspective. And finally, one can talk from a development perspective where we have special focus on the ordinary people and environment, or we can only talk from a climate perspective, or we can only talk from an environment perspective. So I will be talking from a medium, nation, state, development perspective. And I also want to say that these perspectives are not mutually exclusive. That really they have to feed into each other and support each other. But it's a question of emphasis that one gives. So now, uh, as we saw, electricity as a portion of the final energy use basket is significant. It's around 20% and it's growing. And why is it growing? It is growing because of increased electrification and appliance use. It is growing because of electrification of transport. Railways is more or less totally electrified. Road transport is going to be electrified. Cooking is going to be electrified soon. And secondly, electricity generation and end use have significant development impacts. We are all aware of the adverse impact, resource depletion or pollution locally, or climate emissions, livelihood impacts because of either displacement, forest destroyal, etc. But it has also got significant facilitating impacts in terms of improving the quality of life, promoting livelihood, promoting growth, promoting income. uh, Another aspect of the context is that compared to 10 years ago in India, we don't have supply shortage. In fact, we have base power surplus, but that doesn't mean that we are able to meet all the demand that is to be met, because a lot of latent demand has not been met because of multiple reasons. I'll come to that. And second thing is the grid coverage is nearly universal. I don't really want to call it access is universal, but grid coverage is nearly universal. Now, if you look from the supply side, we can see that for the last 5 years, what this graph shows is the capacity addition in coal and renewable. Capacity addition in coal, which was nearly 20,000 megawatt, in a year, that is a change in capacity on an annual basis, has really reduced to, something like 5,000 in the recent years. Whereas the renewable energy capacity has started growing. It is more than the coal capacity addition. It was very high in 2017. It is slowly tapering because of multiple reasons. But the fact of the matter is the renewable energy capacity has caught up with and is overtaken coal capacity addition, and coal capacity is not going to increase significantly from now onwards. The other graph shows, utilization of the existing coal capacity, where the planned load factor, which is a index of utilization of the coal fleet, was very high, nearly 75, 78% in 2000, near to 2010, when the shortage also was very high. Shortage was nearly, 10%. Energy shortage was over 10%, but it has slowly reduced and come to nearly 55%, 58% now. And this capacity addition in coal has resulted in base power surplus, and the low power factor of coal plants now, which is around 58%, is not going to go away. It is a feature. It's not an aberration, because even in 2030, as per the official projections of the CEA, we are going to have around 58% plant load factor. There are coal retirement plans, maybe a couple of gigawatts per year. Many states like Gujarat, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, and many companies like Tata's and NTPC have announced, no more coal. So now this is the supply side part of the story. In the distribution, the sector naturally is impacted by this growth of renewable. It is impacted by high surplus, base power surplus, and it is also impacted by the changing business models. Now, there are other aspects of end use which are also part of transition, like transport, or cooking, or industry itself, which is going to use more and more of electricity, industry or service sector. But I will not be elaborating this in my presentation. Now, if you want to talk, rest of my presentation is largely going to be on the distribution sector transition. If you want to talk about transition, you should know where we are. The situation in distribution sector is, in that sense, a sector with very high financial losses. The annual losses are, to the tune of 60,000 crores. Accumulated losses are, nearly 4.8 crores. And the dues that distribution companies owe to the generating companies are of the tune of 1.38 lakh crores. So distribution companies in the country are not at all a healthy business today, whether it is state owned or private owned. And but these distribution companies have to give us electricity when we want, at the cost that we want. uh, and there are many reasons for that. Our understanding is the main reason for these losses that have been accumulating over a period of time is very bad power procurement planning, because power procurement planning is nearly 75 to 80% of the total cost. This planning has been pretty flawed, because high cost power has been purchased, surplus power has been purchased. Our forecast for load growth has not been, not only not correct, it has been totally off the mark. And because of these reasons, and very slow increase in efficiency has not gone up, but it is reflected by high losses, and capital expense that should have been really helped to reduce losses or improving quality of supply has not happened. And the tariff structure, because the distribution company gets revenue from the tariff, there has been a lot of issues with the tariff structure, in terms of, some of the consumers paying very high tariff and some of the consumers paying very low tariff. Now, what, in terms of numbers, what it means is that the distribution company, it costs around 7 rupees to buy a unit of power for the distribution company. and the commercial industrial consumers pay nearly 8 to 9 rupees, whereas they're easily able to get alternate sources at 5 rupees or 6 rupees. And because such alternate options are available, nearly to 15 to 20% of the consumers have really migrated away from distribution companies, either by buying power from the market or setting up their own captive power plants. Because today solar photovoltaic systems are very cost effective. You can actually set up a plant and move away from the supply of the distribution company, and still remain profitable. Now, the second thing that has happened in the sector is that storage costs have really gone down. Really, storage costs have come down by nearly 80 to 90% in the last 10 years. And our estimate, along we did a study with Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratories, showed that along with storage, solar can cost only around rupees 3 rupees per unit for 13% of energy stored, and 5 rupees if the energy storage is a little higher. So storage plus solar systems are going to be very cost effective very soon. So the distribution company is going to change quite significantly. Today, while it supplies to all the consumers, very soon it will supply only to small consumers. Distribution companies' demand will not be the total load. The cross subsidy, which was the based on the revenue paid by paying consumers like industry commercial, that was a significant percent of the revenue, will no more support those companies. Now again, to quantify this, how it impacts is that the subsidy, I have a slide which shows the amount of subsidy that is available. So when this happens, when the distribution company revenue from paying consumers reduces, it is not easy to ensure that the transition is fair, that the small consumers are given a good deal in terms of affordable supply, quality supply, and good responsive kind of service. So, what can be done for this? To ensure affordability, you have to first reduce the cost of supply. As I said, the main reason for the high cost is because of the poor power purchase planning. Power purchase planning has to be optimized. You have to really no more enter into long-term PPAs, which unfortunately even now some state governments are doing. Renewable energy capacity does make sense because it is cost effective, but it has to be scaled up slowly, not at the kind of pace that is happening now without any kind of environmental or social impact assessment. And there are still concessions to the renewable capacity, especially the big ones, which can be slowly withdrawn. And then, as was mentioned in the inaugural session also, for the small consumers, energy efficiency matters much more than big consumers, because for big consumers, any investment on energy efficiency literally translates to profit, whereas any investment on appliance efficiency for the small consumers, reduces their cost of energy, effective energy use. So there has to be appliance efficiency programs have to be facilitated by the state, by the government, not by doing awareness programs alone or something like that, but actually transforming the market, where what you have in the market are efficient products, especially lights, LEDs, which you've already seen. You should continue with fans, refrigerator, pumps, air conditioners. Of course, it's not relevant for very small consumers, but air conditioners are very important because a significant consumption of the urban population is in air conditioners. So if air conditioners consumes less, it is a very more efficient use of the costly resource called electricity. And tariff rationalization, today we have a system which is called cost plus regulation, where the generator or the distribution company is allowed all the cost uh, based on their declaration and some allowable profit, 16% or whatever. This will not do in the long run, because this is a disincentive for efficiency. We should move away from this kind of a regulation to some kind of a quality and performance benchmark based regulation. And for small consumer, there should be some tariff certainty by ensuring that the tariff increase is there. Modest tariff increase definitely consumers can bear, but it should be linked to inflation. And the subsidy regime should be much better implemented, because the problem with the subsidy regime today is that the state government subsidy is of the tune of nearly one more than a lakh crores per year. And this subsidy plus this cross subsidy adds up to around 21% the discom distribution company's revenue. And because the way the market is transforming, the cross subsidy quantum is reducing around 4 to 5% per year, which means that ultimately the state will have to bear the burden for uh, supplying all the consumers, which is correct. But the subsidy should be reasonable, it should be given to only those who deserve, and such subsidy burden should not be overestimated, which is happening quite significantly now, especially in the agriculture sector. In terms of quality of supply, even today in India, there are no measurement of quality of supply at the consumer end. What is available to us are only some sample surveys. Prayas also had put up some sample devices, but that will not do at all. There should be much better measurement of service quality. We should use technology, whether it be smart meters or whatever. And if you go to any ordinary people and ask what are their problems about electricity supply, you will hear a whole lot of complaints. So there should be separate hearings on quality of supply and service issues. And for all that to happen, it is important that the civil society, representing the small consumers, participate in public hearing. And today, back of the envelope calculations are not sufficient to understand the implications of all this that is going on, whether it is increase in renewable, introduction of storage, or let us say increase the impact of entering into costly contracts. For example, a modeling study done by us in Maharashtra showed that by 2030, 50% renewable energy penetration is possible with some minimum storage support. So this kind of complex studies are needed, along with simple spreadsheet models which can be used by civil society groups. And we need a whole lot of innovations, especially at the end use side. We need small distributed renewable systems which are, as of now, grid connected, because that will really optimize the size and increase the reliability and economy of the system. We need many pilots on battery storage. We need many pilots on consumer quality supply monitoring. The list can be many, but I will just mention one which we have been talking in many forums. That is agricultural solar feeder, where a 11 kV feeder is supplied by a 1 to 10 megawatt solar plant, and this will supply all the pump sets, maybe around 200 to 500 pump sets on a dedicated feeder. And this kind of approach, this will be connected to the grid. This will ensure that farmers get daytime supply, and the prices that are quoted in projects that are being implemented are to the tune of 3 to 3.5 rupees per unit. Whereas today the distribution company's cost of supply is 4 rupees or higher at this level. And this will give significant saving, which means that actually there is no need of any subsidy for this kind of implementation. Anybody who can invest this kind of a money, it can be a developer, it can be a cooperative, it can be the government itself. They can invest this money through some borrowing and some equity, and they can get the money back. And this is an idea that has been promoted for the last say 7 8 years, and it is already taken off in Maharashtra. Now the central government has adopted it in their program called Kusum in the option A, and many states have started implementing this. Now I'll just conclude with one slide. What I understand by electricity transition, that is fair. Uh, Supply options are important, but we should have a small consumer focus, and we should have an energy service approach. For example, what farmer needs is water, not really electricity. What consumer needs is good air and light. So how to provide that at the least cost and with minimum environment damage, that is the issue. Renewables are important. We should face it in a phase wise, increase it and manage the challenges because of their intermittency. We should have a balance of centralized and distributed, small and medium systems. We should have hybrid renewable systems because their capacity utilization factor is higher, whether it is wind and solar, or solar plus battery. And this will be followed by a gradual reduction and making the coal fleet more flexible. And all this is possible by using models and tools. And at the distribution side, maybe the big consumers who are anyway having options, they should be allowed to go, let them take the risk as well as of whatever it means to go out of the comfort zone of supply by the distribution company, because right now they're trying to have the best of both worlds. And that this will mean that the distribution company will be catering to small consumers, and then state subsidy becomes very important. The financial health of the distribution company becomes very important. Reducing the cost of supply becomes very important. And for all this to happen, it's extremely important that ordinary consumers also participate in all the regulatory and policy processes in the electricity sector. Thanks a lot.